Next, we're going to have a presentation from the San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District, and I believe Mr. Weber is going to address us this evening.
Okay, thanks for having me. So I'm the Assistant Manager of San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District. That also means I run the operations. So I just want to read our mission really quickly. It's to safeguard the health and comfort of the citizens of San Mateo County through a planned program to monitor and reduce mosquitoes and other vectors. So we're an independent special district. That we are not tied directly to the county offices that most would think in Redwood City. We are our own entity, paid for by special taxes, amongst other items. You can see us on your property tax bill. So this is mainly a lot of what we cover. So things that everybody likes: fleas, bed bugs, cockroaches, mosquitoes. A lot of what we mainly respond to are mosquitoes and rodent calls, but in the summer, the majority of calls we get are surrounding stinging insects like yellow jackets and wasps. So every once in a while, we just get calls here where people are itching, their kids are getting bites, and we'll respond to the residents and try and figure out what's causing that problem. So it could be fleas, it could be mosquitoes, and there are a whole host of things can cause that, but they may be because raccoons are living under the home or rodents in the walls, and that's when somebody calls us, those are the type of items that we're there to get to the bottom of. So our program, when it comes to mosquito control, we are focused on integrated pest management. So you probably hear that a lot. It's using all the tools available, starting with the most environmentally sensitive ones. So we start with surveillance here. This is a mosquito trap. If we get a call from a resident and they say we're getting mosquito bites, or I've mosquitoes in my house in the evening and they're keeping me up, we put a trap there, and that'll tell us is the type of mosquito, how many we have, and based on some species information and density of the mosquito population, we can actually figure out what type of water sources are breeding in, and whether it's a broken sewage pipe or coming from the catch basins on the street, or maybe even something like Mills Field that's the large property across from SFO and down the street from here. Next, we have biological control. So people like these because they're little fish. The district delivers fish to your property. A problem that we have in most cities is they're treated with chloramine. So unlike chlorine, where you can let it sit out for 3 days, if we deliver these fish, you need to treat it like you would treat an aquarium. But the district does deliver these fish, and we only put them in ornamental ponds. If we put them in creeks or any natural waterways, they can out-compete the native fish. But these are also available for pickup at the district office. Next, we have physical control. So this is a really major project that occurred in Redwood Shores, part of Redwood City, where an excavator actually broke down a levee to flood an area that was seasonally would flood and cause hundreds of acres of mosquitoes. And what this did was open it to tidal fluctuation. It made it back to its original state before that levee was put up. So physical control can actually be a technician visiting your house and dumping out your containers, or when you're in your garden after the rains and spring is coming and you have standing water. That is also physical control. So next we have larval and adult control. So these are items we have. The district employs bacterial products that are specific to mosquito larvae. So when we identify mosquitoes living in the water, we have products that are designed to only kill the mosquito larva. It doesn't even kill the other microorganisms that are in the water. So they're specific to mosquitoes. Adult control, not as specific to mosquitoes. However, when we apply them in the evening at the rates applied, and only in instances where we have identified a virus in mosquitoes that if they bit a human being, they would transmit that pathogen to the human being. So adult control would be, you see right here, there's a little, what people would call a fogger in the back of the truck. That puts out a pesticide typically while everybody's sleeping, and that will knock down that mosquito population and prevent something like West Nile virus from being transmitted to residents. And lastly, we have public education. So those are the main tools that the district uses. So I was going to talk about some San Bruno specific items. Last year, the district visited 803 properties within the city of San Bruno. Those would include site inspections for rodents, mosquitoes, just requests for service like I spoke about, residents getting bites, unidentified bites, or putting those traps out like we talked about before. So 803 property visits in 2018. This is a map specific to San Bruno over the last couple of years, requests for service over the last few years. As you can see, 77 of those were mosquito related. It's somewhat hard to see, but the yellow ones are stinging insects. Brown is for rodent calls. We had 42 of those. And again, this is over the last 2 years. Blue, mosquito related. We had dead birds or squirrels, and let's see, 7 of those were called in. So when we collect those dead birds or squirrels, we actually test those in-house for West Nile virus. If a dead bird or squirrel tests positive, then we will set traps out, and if those traps go out, they collect mosquitoes. We test those mosquitoes again in-house for West Nile virus. If they test positive for West Nile virus, that's when you would see that truck-mounted application that I showed you prior. So this is a map locally of all the service calls, about 180 altogether. Okay, so in the past few years, we've seen a resurgence of rats. That's because there's a lot of restrictions now on rodenticides. In the past, we had a lot of residents using rodenticides, probably not according to the label. All of our staff read the label before they use the product, but that wasn't always happening with rodenticides, and it's happened to a major reduction on the shelves at Home Depots and other hardware stores. So I don't expect you to remember all of these items, only that we have a roof rat, a Norway rat, and then a house mouse. I think everyone knows the house mouse, but roof rats are typically going to be in your bushes and getting into your attic, whereas the Norway rat, which is more of a traditional rat that we don't see as frequently anymore, they will burrow under your foundation. So that's why some of you might have a concrete lining underneath your home, and that was an old tactic to prevent Norway rats from burrowing underneath. But more often than not nowadays, we have the roof rat as our enemy getting into the home. So this is just some general education. These are some what they call swing marks. So when this is a shed in someone's backyard, when rats are running along there, you can see the black. That's oil coming off of their fur. So it's kind of a nasty picture. But these are some items when you're at home. We do find a lot of residents have rats more often than they know. But if you see live or dead rodents, noises, you see gnawing damage, droppings, tracks, and so on. So another item is if you see damaged fruit either on the tree or off the tree. They really like citrus. And so you can take a look at those items. If you do hear any of those things or you see fruit, you can call the district and we'll come out, do an inspection, tell you all the areas that you need to seal up, like areas right here where they could be getting into your attic. Talk about harvesting your fruit, and the technician can provide you a report that will give you all the specifics of what you can do on your property to prevent rodents from entering your house and keeping them away from your yard. So these are just some items that we would talk about and give you a specialized report on what to seal up there. This is another item talking about sanitation, so picking up pet waste, harvesting fruit. These are some garbage cans that some cities are investing in, somewhat costly, but what they do is they prevent a food source on the street. So these are garbage cans, much like a mailbox. Larger cities usually invest in these, and they have a solar-powered compactor inside. And what it does is prevent not only rodents from getting in there, but house waste getting thrown away, and any other animals like raccoons and so on. So some other items would be don't leave your bird feeders out at night. I know that's a challenging one, but we also say put a spill guard below your bird feeder. So all of those things will prevent rodents from coming to your property. And some calls we've gotten in San Bruno recently, more so up towards the 280 area, were rodents damaging vehicles. So they get up underneath, they chew on wires, and it's very challenging to combat this. But you can, if your car's in the garage, of course, you want to prevent them from getting in the garage. So some of the items we talked about, and we can provide a report for that. But we talked about trimming vegetation, keeping your hood open, leaving a light on. There's certain products that you might be able to spray underneath, but some of them don't seem to work for extensive periods of time. So that's another item. Again, if you see any of these things, please call the district. Mills Field, quickly, I'll get through this. This is touches San Bruno right here. We do helicopter treatments every year. This covers, we do over 150 acres. The field isn't 150 acres. The treatment we do is 150 acres. It takes over 50 man-hours a year to do inspections, set traps, and do the larvicide applications. This is paid for. So the airport across the way, SFO, is paying for this service to protect public health and protect you guys from nuisance mosquitoes. So they're supporting that program. And I always like this picture. I think it's a really cool picture of the area. My technicians tell me that Mills Field right now has more water than they've ever seen in the past 15 years. So the recent rains have really flooded that. These treatments do occur by helicopter, as you can see over here. They always start typically the first week in July and end in September, October, but they are based on our surveillance and how many mosquitoes we have in the traps. Just a West Nile update. Last year, 2 birds were submitted by San Bruno residents. They tested negative for West Nile virus. We had 5 birds test positive countywide. No mosquitoes tested positive for West Nile virus, so that's 2 years in a row of no virus. And I like to bring up this slide because Zika virus was in the news a lot in the recent past. So we do not currently have the mosquito in the county that transmit these nasty diseases you hear about. Even Zika virus that cannot be transmitted in this county currently, because we don't have the mosquito that transmit it. Our native mosquitoes cannot transmit Zika virus. We had an introduction a while back. I won't get into that, but we were able to eradicate it till now. So the only real mosquito-borne threat is West Nile virus, and of course, many of you hike, use Sawyer Camp Trail. We also have Lyme disease, which is a small risk as well. Quickly, I'll go through Spartina control. This is down the road on the shoreline. This is actually an invasive plant. Although it looks very nice, you can see this is us working out there. This is actually San Bruno Marsh in 2008. And although this looks like we destroyed all the vegetation, it was never supposed to be this way in the first place. This is a plant that was planted by the Army Corps in about 1970, and it destroys this area that the shorebirds are supposed to feed on. So this area is actually supposed to look like this. This was a project we worked with the Coastal Conservancy, and since we have these equipment to do mosquito control, they had asked us to help them out with this project. So a plug for our open house, April 18th. You can bring Boy Scout troops and kids. Those are my children. And we have an airboat to check out and the different amphibious vehicles. Everyone's welcome. And please, 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 if you have any of the problems that I spoke about, call the district, and we will come out and solve your problems.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions from council?
Through the chair.
Michael.
I just wanted to kind of echo your endorsement for the open house. I went last year, and it's a great facility, and there is a lot of cool stuff there to look at. So I would recommend going. Thank you for the presentation.
And honestly, there's parking available. It's on Rollins. And I will tell you, I also went and I was taken back by all of the items. And let me tell you, it's worth seeing, because it's easy to try to explain it, but I went through upstairs and downstairs and with all of the apparatus that is there, and it's quite insightful. And also there are items that we can also take for our own individual needs and the community. So thank you very much.
And
Ms.
4 to 7 for the open house.
4 to 7. Yes. Yeah. Sure. Robert's saying no. So we do have our, Mr. Weber, you may know him. Robert?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. He represents the city of San Bruno on the mosquito abatement, and he gets paid a lot. It's free. He volunteers his service, and we appreciate his time and keeping us informed as well. He gives council and staff updates on a routine basis.
The only thing I'll say is I rode one night at midnight when they went out and fog, and I rode on one of the airboats or something out of the marsh and out super dirty.
Now, see, you said about the airboats, now everybody's going to want to be and have your job, just to ride that. Okay, thank you again.